Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We are continuing our series called Checkpoint Charlie, chatting with the man I consider the greatest political writer in the United States today, Mr. Charles Pires, who's speaking with us from his lawn somewhere outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Charles writes for Esquire.com. He makes regular appearances on MSNBC and CNN. He knows a lot about sports, music, but we are going to be talking politics. We'll get into a little music today. But Charlie, so good to have you on again. How are you doing?
It's very good, Paul. How are you doing? It's the first al fresco Checkpoint Charlie of the year.
Yes, absolutely. And we're looking forward to having more. Say I need a little personal update. You got hit by a car a couple of months ago.
Yeah, December 9th.
What?
I had my side actually had an encounter with a Subaru, and had a couple of cracked lower vertebrae and 15 staples in my head.
Wow!
But I was really lucky. I was lucky. I had health insurance. I had Medicare. Thank you, Medicare. And I had really good doctors. So
good.
And it could have been a lot worse. So I'm very grateful.
Well, we're happy to hear that. Were you just crossing the street?
I was in the cross. I was about 2 blocks from my house.
Wow.
And I was walking to take the bus to go to work, and a guy, he rolled over my foot. He didn't do anything really to my foot. But I hit him. I hit the hood like, hey, dude, get your car off my foot. And I think instead of backing up, he went forward and knocked me down.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you're recovering. I don't know what I would do without you. I had
my headphones, had my music. I was okay.
I refer to you as my political morphine drip because you know so much more about it than I do. But we're coming off the heels of the mini primaries yesterday. What does your scoop on Biden now ahead, and what is Bernie going to do next?
Well, Bernie says he just wrapped up a press conference on Wednesday afternoon where he said he was going to go on. They were going to debate on Sunday. I think it's possible he's looking for a graceful way out. I don't see it. The numbers, especially in the South, are just prohibitive against him right now. Mm-hmm. He's had 5 years to make a connection with African-American voters, and he can't do it. I mean, it's beyond him for whatever reason. And
go ahead.
that's going to let Biden pile up delegates everywhere. And people, I wrote this this week or last week, I guess. I underestimated how powerful the political impulse just to get back to normal is for people.
I totally agree.
That it would have that kind of political salience. I mean, I knew the feeling was out there because you couldn't go to a rally without feeling it. But I just, I think it was this incredibly powerful political force that was looking for a focus. And it was originally supposed to be Biden. But then, he bungled the beginning of his campaign so badly that it was sort of floating around looking for another place to land. And as soon as he showed some strength in South Carolina, it all landed on him.
You wrote, it could have been that piece. You kind of wrote a follow-up piece about that. It's going to be nice. Knock on wood, and I'm knocking on wood here in the studio at AM 950, that we don't have to wake up every morning to the insanity of the tweet storm that comes out of the White House, and we can have 4 or 5 days at a time when we don't even have to think about whatever the president is up to.
Yeah, I mean, that's an impulse I've heard from so many different people. I mean, I have a friend named Ashley Parker who covers the White House for the Washington Post, and during the 2016 election and at the beginning of the administration, she barely got any sleep.
Yeah,
because her notifications were going off all the time. I mean, you would tweet something at 4 a.m. and her phone would go off. And she'd have to instantly go on duty.
Oh, man.
And it reminded me of what I heard from back in my sports writing days, the New York baseball beat writers who covered the Yankees during the whole Steinbrenner, Billy Martin craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Where, one of them once told me, he said, you were never off duty. You were never off the clock with those two guys. And I said, what was it like? And he said, it was like being a fireman in hell.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Billy Martin over the years?
No. He was a little bit before my time.
Okay. Just one of those.
Because I know he did time in Minneapolis.
He sure did. Yeah, we loved him here. He fit right in. He was kind of the Minnesota Twins equivalent of Joe Kapp, who was the quarterback for the Vikings kind of in that era, too.
And later for the Patriots.
Yep, exactly. Joe, who would show up with a massive tequila hangover on Sunday and then kick proverbial butt on the opposing team. Charles, besides returning to normal that I think we all need, I think, from my perspective, now the curtain, we're finally seeing the wizard that is President Trump behind the curtain with the coronavirus. And I mean, it's... I think it's phenomenal how ineffectual and clueless the guy is.
Well, I mean, and he's surrounded himself with people who are equally clueless.
Yeah,
which is frightening. And this is, I mean, and I'm not the first person to say this. This is something you can't spin.
Right.
This is not something you can misdirect people. People's grandparents are going to get sick.
Mm-hmm.
The guy down the block is going to get taken to the hospital in an ambulance.
Yeah.
Your kid's school is going to close.
Right.
Your basketball tournament is going to get canceled.
Exactly.
This isn't going to be like, any other crisis he's faced. This isn't going to be like anything in Iraq. This is going to happen down the block.
You can't tweet it away.
No, you absolutely can't. If you can, the more important thing is you can't lie it away.
Right.
Because it's happening in people's front yards.
I went to a concert last night downtown Minneapolis to see Bob Weir and his trio, which was, that's the fire truck out there in Charlie Pierce's front yard. There we go. Audio verite, as it were.
Yes.
And it was really amazing that just things that you would take for granted going to, whether it's a baseball game or a concert. And I'm there last night. I'm in the music scene, so I know a lot of people. Just how many elbow bumps and other things not grabbing the handrail that you are now aware of when you're in a group of large people.
Oh, I know. I just watched the beginning of one of the conference basketball tournaments where all the players got together at center court.
Yeah.
All fist bumps and elbow bumps.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Given, the proper leadership, people will do the right thing.
Right.
People are smart. They'll follow along if they think they're being led in the right direction.
Yeah.
But, when you get to the bridge of the Titanic and the captain is Daffy Duck, I mean, there isn't anything you can do about it. I mean...
For those of you out there in the Wall of Power Radio Hour land, we have Charles Pierce on. He writes for Esquire.com and one of the most astute political cats on the scene today. And great analogies always with Mr. Pierce. I remember when I really started reading you a couple of years ago, Charlie, you referred to Paul Ryan as the zombie-eyed granny starver.
Yes, from Wisconsin.
And, really, whether it's the late night television hosts or what I see on Twitter, which I spend way too much of my time on Earth on, it's that I really think humor with this administration has been one of our greatest weapons.
Oh, no, and it always is. I mean, going back to the Greeks and the Romans, it's always been a great weapon for people against the powerful.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the things that I always resented about people like Rush Limbaugh was they were employing, satire against weak people.
Right.
Satire is a weapon of the underdog. It's a weapon. It's a weapon of the downtrodden.
Exactly. Which begs the question: what is Dennis Miller up to now?
For that matter, so is folk music.
Yeah, absolutely. What we both have great admiration, and I voted for her in the Minnesota primary, Elizabeth Warren. What are your feelings? You myself, like Amy Klobuchar, I want to keep these women as senators because I think if we could flip the Senate, knock on wood again, they're going to both be very powerful figures.
Oh, I think so too. I would resist the temptation to make either one of them a vice president.
Yeah.
I mean, except for the the ghoulish notion that we're electing an 80-year-old and maybe he won't live out his term.
Right.
I mean, I've heard that argument too, by the way. Let's put Amy or Elizabeth in as vice president and maybe Biden will die, which I don't think is really the way to think about these things. But I want her, I want Amy in the Senate doing what she does, and I want Elizabeth in the Senate chasing the rich people.
Can you imagine?
I want her as, majority leader or chair of Senate banking. Amen to both of those things. We have Charlie Pierce on. We're going to be talking about more politics. We're going to get into a little music because we always do. I love Joe Biden yesterday talking to those auto workers in Michigan who were dissing about his gun control ideas, and he called them full of you know what? It starts with an S. And then I'm going to myself, I saw that link and I go, didn't Biden and Barack bail these guys out at one time? Oh, sure. I mean, their industry exists because of those guys.
Exactly.
And I don't understand how people thought that was going to hurt him.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I think in that crowd, that won him votes. I guarantee it.
And it's kind of that Joe Biden that we've all kind of loved. Bring on the gas. We all do that. And imagine having a microphone in your face 22 hours a day in front of thousands of people. We got Charlie. Imagine
that being the case since you were 39 years old.
I wouldn't have a job. We got Charlie Pierce on the wall.
Well, you had a microphone in your face of one way or another before that young.
I've been sneaking by for years, Charlie. We'll be right back on the Wall of Power Radio Hour with Charlie Pierce.
One source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Hello, fellow AM 950 listeners. This is Jaja from Nightingale at 26 in Lindale. Come experience our delicious signature dishes and exciting rotation of inventive seasonal fare from my wife and chef, Carrie, and her team. Nightingale is the perfect place to gather for any occasion with our extensive wine, beer, and cocktail selection, along with our dedication to great service. We offer a full menu every day from 4 to 1 a.m., 2 award-winning daily happy hours, and weekend brunch at 10. More at nightingaleMPLS.com.
I'm Richard R.J. Eskow, and this week on the Zero Hour, we'll be discussing political corruption, Wall Street shenanigans, our corporate overlords, digital dystopia, and maybe throw in a surprise or two as well. All this and more on the Zero Hour every Sunday night from 9 until midnight on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
You know how it is with vacuum cleaners. You buy them, you break them, then you throw them away, right? Well, not necessarily. Often, fixing your vacuum can be cheaper than replacing it. Ever heard of A1 Vacuum in Roseville? They offer free estimates. So if you wish your vacuum worked like new again, drop by. A1 Vacuum is ready to help clean up your vacuum cleaner act. Find us at a-1vacuum.com or call 651-222-6316.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, it helped me pay for my house.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the Minnesota Army National Guard. Aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Did you know there's deconstruction funding available now for homeowners and contractors in Hennepin County? If you are embarking on a remodel or teardown this year, consider hiring Better Futures Minnesota's deconstruction crews instead of demolition. By taking a house or building apart by hand instead of destroying it with heavy equipment, the materials can be reused or recycled instead of going into the landfill. It is much more cost-effective and is a carbon-neutral solution. Go to betterfuturesminnesota.com and look under Business Services to learn more.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We've got my political morphine drip, Mr. Charlie Pierce, speaking from his front lawn somewhere in Massachusetts this morning. We're talking about all things politics, and we'll get to some music. So, Charlie, let's talk a little bit more now about VP for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had my druthers, and again, I don't particularly want to lose a senator, but I don't think there's any danger of the Republicans winning a Senate seat in California. Kamala Harris would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Stacey Abrams would be a good pick, I think, if you really thought you could win Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because Kamala really does. I mean, she brings a lot of voters with her from around the country.
Yeah.
But California's in the satchel. I mean, there's no, she's not going to bring the state with her.
Right.
But I think it certainly has to be somebody who's young. I think it has to be a female, and I think it has to be somebody of color.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that will reinforce a lot of his advantages and reconnect him with most of the people he needs to win over.
Well, she did a great job introducing him at the Michigan rally a couple days ago. I mean,
yeah. She's on board. I mean, and she'll be a great team. I mean, she would be a great teammate.
You know what? Too, all they'd have to do is start replaying that interview she did with Bill Barr back during those confirmation hearings.
Right. Yeah.
She's she's like it's Perry Mason. You know.
Well, no, that was the one where he was trying to parse words with her, and it was not helpful.
Yeah, she was so good. Well, I don't know. For me, that's gender balanced, racially balanced, and she's got that deep soul, and she's just attractive on so many levels. She's very relatable. I love, like I said earlier, I'm wasting the time I have left on Earth on Twitter way too much. But I really enjoy it. But those Twitter feeds from her kitchen when she's cooking are just absolutely phenomenal. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, we there were. I mean, in a way, it's a shame because there were remarkable women running this year.
Yeah,
I mean, formidable, terrific politicians.
Well, aren't they kind of saying this morning, Charlie, that that the Bernie vote was kind of propped up in 2016 by the anti-Hillary vote?
Oh, I don't think you can look at the Michigan results and think anything but that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because with her off the ballot, Bernie Sanders just bled support in Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, in the suburbs, even in the university towns.
Yeah.
In Washtenaw County, which is where the University of Michigan is. I don't have to tell you that. You probably played there about 50 times.
Now, speaking of universities, what about this millennial vote? I mean, they didn't come out like they did in 2016 for Bernie either.
No, they don't. They don't vote, and I think that was Bernie's great miscalculation, was believing that they would, and they didn't. And Woody Allen said one time, 99% of life is showing up.
Yeah.
And if you don't show up, somebody else makes the decision.
You know, I've had this fear for years now when I envision myself in 30 years from now in the old folkies home, and I'm next to some of the first millennials that came in with fading tattoos, and they're talking to each other about when's the first time you played Pac-Man. You know, I mean, it's...
Well, yeah, we're going to have some... I mean, with all the tats, we're going to have some funny-looking people in old age home. I'm glad I'm not going to be around to see it.
But, so, what is your... You know, I have to say, number one, the great concert last night, Bob Weir played great, and I bumped into a friend of mine I hadn't seen in 20 years.
Who's he touring with?
Don Was on upright bass. From
really?
Was Not Was, who's also the president of Blue Note Records and a really good monster drummer. I've never heard of this guy.
And Waz is also a producer, right?
Yeah, but he goes in and they do, they've got those Grateful Dead classics, of course, and but they've got some stuff, some of those old folk tunes, and then Bob put out a kind of a country record a couple years ago, so they played a couple tunes off that. But he was really playing well. As a guy that's played in a trio, I know how hard it is to keep the band together rhythmically and then also solo, and while still keeping the band together rhythmically. And I've saw Bob again last year, and this was really it was good last year, but last night he really played well. But you know what I loved about it, Charlie, was everything we're going through in this world. I mean, you can diss the Deadheads for being nostalgia and chasing something that's not there anymore. But I love seeing 2,000 people in a room having fun with each other and enjoying themselves. You don't get to see that.
I never got it. Whatever it was that drew people to them, I never got. There are some numbers they do that I really enjoy, but I was never one of the tribe.
Yeah.
But I never saw anybody I never saw more peaceful, happy people surrounding a band in my life. I mean,
yeah, I know.
One time we took the train back from the Final Four in Minneapolis in 1993, I think.
Okay.
My two kids, my son and my son was maybe about 11, and my son was 9. My daughter was like 1.5, and we took the train back, and we were in the dining car, and all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people who were traveling to see the Dead got on in maybe Milwaukee, maybe Chicago, I'm not sure, and they were going to see the Dead, and they sort of took over the train.
Sure.
And at one point, my son and my daughter walked back to the club car to get some potato chips or something, and they came back to their seats, and they both had face paint. And it was just these incredibly happy people.
Yeah.
Had enfolded them into the tribe. And I think that the way they brought people together with their music was really quite something.
Yeah.
And I think it's you can't. I don't know that there's really anything to compare it to.
Yeah. Well, they always got, back when there was such a thing as rock criticism that had an effect, they always got dissed, I think, for more of some of their wackier fans than the band themselves. But the Dead, to me, weren't really ever a rock and roll band, although they could play Chuck Berry. They were just a really loud folk band, I mean, Garcia's background was all bluegrass and folk. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much about the other guys, but he started out as a banjo player, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he knew his stuff. I mean, he used to travel around to. He and David Grisman would go out to those shows in Indiana where Bill Monroe had his annual Bean Blossom Festival, and his roots are deep. Reminding me of that great old Grateful Dead joke. How do you know if you have a dead head staying at your house? They're still there. We'll be back with Charlie Pierce, the third segment of the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the Doo-Dah Man, together, more or less in line, just keep trucking on.
With the warmer weather coming, it's time to get that new Toyota vehicle you've wanted at Rudy Luther Toyota. Everyone loves the RAV4, and Rudy Luther has both the hot-selling 2020 RAV4 and the wildly popular RAV4 Hybrid. Both have inspiring design, intuitive technology, and smart style, and Rudy Luther has 250 available. And test drive the completely redesigned Highlander. Discover more quality for family time with the refined interior and the striking exterior. Stop by Rudy Luther Toyota today, 5 miles west of downtown Minneapolis on 394.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. Over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake would like to say Peeny Gigi for all your support these last 3 years. We discuss national and local Native news and events. Weekly correspondents bring us updates and information from all over Turtle Island.
Native Roots Radio I'm Awake is supported by Robbins Kaplan, LLP, dedicated to redefining high-stakes litigation representation in Indian country.
Saturdays live 1 to 3. Free Leonard Peltier.
Visit the wine bar at Cafe Latte and enjoy a unique handcrafted pizza and glass of wine. The perfect place for an intimate night or an evening with friends. Choices range from spicy Italian sausage and sweet roasted peppers to the one-of-a-kind nacho chicken pizza layered with blue corn tortilla chips. The approachable wine list offers over 30 by the glass with special emphasis on wines from Washington State. End your night with one of Cafe Latte's melt-in-your-mouth desserts. 850 Grand Avenue, St. Paul.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our new show airing on Saturdays from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights to living and aging well. Each week, we provide answers to important questions regarding health care, elder care, end-of-life care, and caregiver support to help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Formerly the Audubon Center of the Northwoods, Osprey Wilds is a nonprofit environmental learning center on Grindstone Lake in Sandstone, Minnesota. Osprey Wilds has community events like Dinner at the Lake, Maple Syrup Day, and learning opportunities for all ages. Audit an environmental education college class, snowshoe or ski our trails, or learn about our wildlife programming. We're open to the public year-round. Visit online at ospreyWilds.org. That's ospreywilds.org. With your AM 950 weather, this is Eric Nelson. Tonight will be mostly clear with a low around 24. Sunday, partly sunny with a high of 42 and a low around 33. Monday has a chance of snow in the morning, but will all melt in the afternoon with a high of 44. Tuesday, clear skies with a high of 40 and a low of 26. Believe it or not, it's time for spring cleaning. And if you want your house to be fresh and clean, you've got to go with Zero Res. This month, get 3 rooms of carpet Zero Resified starting at just $129, plus a free hallway. That's a savings of $55. Find more online at ZeroResMinnesota.com.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. My favorite guest in the 6 years that I've been having the show, which is celebrating its 6th anniversary this spring, Mr. Charlie Pierce. We call this series Checkpoint Charlie. Charlie not only knows his politics, he knows his sports, but let's talk a little bit about music, Charlie. Have you seen that new band documentary, Once We're Brothers?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. If it's been here, I haven't seen it. I hear good things about it. I hear, it's obviously a Robbie-centric production.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you take that. You take that with whatever I certainly hope it doesn't open up all the bitterness again.
No, and it's totally Robbie's story. It's kind of based on his book Testimony. I know that story really well. I mean, I've been following those guys for years. But there's some there's some photo clips, some little movie clips you've never seen before, and just to see Danko and Manuel and Levon having fun and laughing is great. There's a great little clip of an interview with Richard Manuel, and very astute. All those guys in their prime, they were just studly, handsome dudes.
Yeah, they really were. They really were, and they didn't work at it.
Yeah, they didn't.
I mean, they were guys in flannel shirts.
Yeah, exactly. And what was cool, it starts out, Robbie Robertson is playing this, it's a solid body. I couldn't even tell you the make of the guitar, this yellow guitar, the black pickguard, but it's the same guitar when they open up, that was his first electric guitar, and there's pictures of him playing when he was 13 years old. And
wow.
So I love that. Couple of classics.
Yeah, apparently that whole bunch in Woodstock were very big on home movies.
Yeah. Well, and it's great. It's great that they were. I mean, there's I presume Bob is not interviewed. No, Bob's not interviewed. Springsteen is. Clapton is. And like Springsteen says.
Yeah, well, those guys rocked Clapton's world.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, those guys in Hendrix pretty much blew him up as a power trio guy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the reason why Clapton disbanded Cream. And he might even have made an offer to see if he could join the band. But then the other connection, and I sent you that version of Turaluralura, which I can't remember, but I don't believe it's in The Last Waltz, although that's when it was recorded.
No, it's from the concert, but it's not in the movie.
Right. But Van lived in Woodstock for a while. When you see those early pictures of that Moondance record, that was taken by Elliot Landy, who is the photographer for the band in National Skyline.
Right. He's the one who took all the pictures. That picture of him standing in the middle of the road and stuff.
Yeah. And I had Elliot, he put out a great coffee table book of band photos a couple of years ago that was kind enough to send me, and I had him on for 2 episodes. And he just would beam about how polite and what gentlemen the band were.
Yeah, well, he just sort of lucked into them, right?
Yeah.
He was just up there.
Yeah, he was this is the story as I remember, Charlie. He was a photographer who started to cover the anti-war protests in about 64 and 65. And then he started covering the Fillmore East Open. And he was taking photos, I believe it was at a Janis Joplin concert at Fillmore East. Albert Grossman, who was managing the band, Bob Dylan and Janis at the time, went up to him to grab his camera and his film. He saw Albert coming. He took his film out, gave it to his girlfriend, gave Albert the camera, which he got back. And although it was kind of, there were butting heads as it started, Albert went back, or maybe this was actually, 68. I'd have to go back and listen to the interview. But then Albert invited Elliot to come up to Woodstock because he was working. He had this group of musicians at the time called the Hawks. And Elliot was really kind of the guy when you look back. I mean, because you remember those photos, right, Charlie Pierce? I mean, they look like Matthew Brady photos. I mean, those black and white, these could be from 1865.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the great thing when Big Pink first hit. Nobody knew who these guys were.
Right.
I mean, you really had to be a music. You pretty much had to be in the business.
Right.
To know who they were.
Right.
And of course, there's no name on the original pressing of Big Pink. There's no name of the group on it.
Right.
They're not called the band. It just says music from Big Pink.
Right, with that great...
And then you open it up, and here's a bunch of guys with their parents, standing out on Rick Danko's uncle's farm. What the hell's going on here? And you got this weird Dylan painting on the front.
Right. And
then you put on the record, and it didn't sound like anything else.
Oh, my God. And Long Black Veil, I remember that like it was yesterday. And then that Richard Manuel falsetto on I Shall Be Released, and oh, my God. What do you remember? We're kind of about the same age. What do you remember hearing that for the first time? Music from Big Pink?
Oh yeah, I remember hearing it. I was in high school, and a friend of mine, one of my best friends, I was staying over his place for the weekend because my parents were out of town, I think. And we sat down, and he said, "Listen to this." He said, "I don't know what to make of this. Why don't you listen to this and tell me?" Which he's my big, another one of my music fan friends. And I listened to it like all the way through, and the first time I didn't get it. There were cuts on it. I loved Long Black Veil.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it didn't sound normal. It sounded weird.
Right.
And then I said, play it again. And I listened to it again, and about halfway through the first side, I finally got it.
Right.
Because I realized that what sounded like one guy singing was four guys singing.
Yeah, and that was the other...
that Staple Singers thing they did, where they'd trade off in the middle of a line.
Right. Well, that's what Springsteen talks about in the movie Once Were Brothers, the movie about Robbie Robertson and the band. He goes, you could have taken any of those guys as lead singers and built a band around them.
Oh, absolutely. Even Danko, whose voice was probably the most idiosyncratic of them all.
Right.
On the right number, on Stage Fright, or on the one verse he sings in The Wait. Or on the, Loving You Makes My Life Sweeter Than Ever, the Four Top song that he always sang.
Oh, my God, yeah.
He was perfect for it.
I remember I saw the version of the band in what would it have been? Late 90s. They played at the Mill City Music Festival in downtown Minneapolis, and they had Levon and Rick and Garth. I will never forget, Charlie, when Rick Danko started to sing It Makes No Difference. There was a woman in town. She's a kind of a media maven, and she was standing next to me, and she was bawling. She was in tears.
Yeah, that's one I forgot to mention. But,
I'm getting choked up thinking about it.
I don't know if I've talked to you about this before. There's a guy in Boston named Ryan Walsh. He's a musician. He's in a band called Hallelujah the Hills.
Okay.
But he wrote a book called Astral Weeks about Van Morrison's time in Cambridge.
You know what? I've heard about that book, and we have talked about it.
It's tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, it talks about why, it explains why Van came here. Basically, he was running out on a contract that he had signed with a mob-connected agent.
Right.
Hang on. And I mean, it's all about how he's sitting in this little apartment on Green Street and gigging around town and going on WBCN with Peter Wolf from the Giles Band, who was the overnight DJ at the time.
Right.
And it's all about Boston in 1967 and 68. It's a terrific book, and I recommend it highly to everyone. It's simply called Astral Weeks.
Yeah, I've got to get it. You've got to hook me up with it, because that's like right in my wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it explains a little bit about how, you talk about albums that came out of nowhere.
Right.
I mean, that was another one you heard it for the first time, and it was like nothing you ever heard.
Yeah. Well, what I loved about that version of Turaluralura, which is one of the greatest live versions of any song I've ever heard, Richard Manuel starts singing like an angel, and then boom, all of a sudden, about a minute into it, Van Morrison walks out. Robbie Robertson is nailing it on the Stratocaster, and you've got Richard on piano and Garth on organ, and the great Levon Helm and Rick laying it down. But,
and then Van starts scatting.
Oh my God!
Doopada, 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 doopada.
Oh, I know, with that great jumpsuit he was wearing.
I know it. Which was what? Maybe 2 sizes too small, right?
Now, tell us a little bit about, do you remember, I'm sure you do, listening to Peter Wolf on Boston radio?
Yeah, when he first started, he was the woofa-goofa. He was the nighttime DJ.
Okay.
And he played mostly old R&B.
Okay.
Because he has an encyclopedic knowledge of it. I mean, he's a savant on that stuff. And then, of course, the other musicians that eventually became the Jay Giles Band were in a band in my hometown of Worcester called the Hallucinations.
Okay.
And they played colleges. That was Jay Giles and Magic Dick and Stephen Bladd, the drummer. And I believe the bass player was in another band around Worcester. And then they got Peter Wolf as a frontman and became the Jay Giles Band.
Do you remember?
But Peter was a great DJ, as you could probably imagine if you ever saw the show.
Yeah, well, I was out in Boston.
And he and Van would like walk into the studio and sit there and talk with them.
Wow.
About and Peter would always say, that song Gloria that every one of your high school bands plays. This guy wrote it.
In fact, I was just cleaning the garage on Sunday, and I've got way too many cassettes. I've been a cassette guy forever, and I just have a lot that don't have names on them, and I just plug them in when I'm in the garage into my great boombox, and I stumbled on Van doing Glory with John Lee Hooker.
Oh, is that that's the one from the TV show, right?
Oh, I don't even know. It's just on a blank cassette, but God, did it sound good.
Yeah, I mean, there's one film clip of them doing that, and they're singing the song, and of course, I don't know how old Hooker was at this point, but I mean, he must have been well into his 70s, and Van's singing with him, and they get to the chorus, and they spell out Gloria, and Van says, "What's her name, Johnny?" And Hooker says, "Lucille."
Priceless. We got Charlie Pierce on. We're going to have one more set with Charlie and on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We will be right back.
About midnight. Nights make me feel so good. But I feel alright. That woman's a winner. And her name is G. Yeah.
Number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake would like to say Peeny Gigi for all your support these last 3 years. We discuss national and local Native news and events. Weekly correspondents bring us updates and information from all over Turtle Island.
Native Roots Radio I'm Awake is supported by Robbins Kaplan, LLP, dedicated to redefining high-stakes litigation representation in Indian country.
Saturdays live 1 to 3. Free Leonard Peltier.
Finding the best foods the Twin Cities has to offer is easy with eatlocalminnesota.com. Offering the top local and independently owned restaurants, eatlocalminnesota.com has everything from burger joints to cocktails and fine dining. Crooner's Lounge and Supper Club invites you to check out their beautiful facilities for your next special occasion. Book your wedding reception, retirement party, business dinner, or other special event with confidence, knowing their expert staff and award-winning chef will make it a big hit with your guests. Call today to get a quote, 763-571-9020. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us.
If you're someone that counts on AM 950 to bring you the latest in progressive politics, news, and talk, remember, we can't do it alone. Support our many great advertisers and let them know you heard about their business on AM 950. If you don't know who to talk to, simply write AM 950 on your receipt. AM 950 is supported by small, local businesses, so you're not only helping us and those businesses, but our local economy as well. For a complete list of our sponsors, log on to am950radio.com.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
This mountain, you know where I wanna go. Straight down the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico, to Lake Charles, Louisiana. Little Bessie girl I once knew, and she told me just to come on by if there's anything that she could do. Up on Cripple Creek, she sends me if I spring a leak. She mends me, I don't have to speak, as she defends me. A trucker stream if I ever did see one.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. I'm having a most enjoyable conversation with Mr. Charles Pierce. We call the series Checkpoint Charlie, one of the most astute political writers in the great country that we know as America. Charlie, let's talk about Trump's effect on the Republican Party. Biden's looks like he's going to be nominated, entrance into the race. How do you think the House and the Senate are going to fare in the upcoming election?
Well, I think that the Senate became far more doable for the Democrats this week when Steve Bullock decided to run in Montana.
Right.
Because I think that's a seat they can flip. He's running against, Steve Daines, who you couldn't pick out of a police lineup. I mean, he's the living definition of a nondescript senator.
Right.
And I think certainly there's a chance in North Carolina. There's better than it. There's an outside chance in Kentucky. I think that the possibility of Mitch McConnell no longer being the majority leader come November 8th is better than it was 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I think the House is probably safe. It's possible that with the complete inability of this government to handle the pandemic, that the Republicans could have an absolutely catastrophic election.
Now, was it you that had mentioned on Twitter, and it's Charles P. Pierce on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
At Charles P. Pierce.
Yeah. If for those of you that aren't on Twitter, trust me, you can. There's good stuff on there, and for those of you that are, I'd say get on, and those of you on Twitter, follow Mr. Pierce. It's great stuff. But were you the guy a week or two ago that suggested if the Dems win and we have a chance to appoint a Supreme Court justice or two, that let's say it's Biden should nominate Anita Hill?
Yes, that was me.
Fantastic.
That was purely making mischief. But I think it wouldn't be I think it would be a terrific idea.
Oh my God!
Sit her next to Clarence for a few seconds. See how he reacts.
Karma with a capital K.
Oh yeah, it absolutely would be.
Oh man!
I just life doesn't work out that way.
Boy, it's a beautiful idea, though. You know who I would love to see on there too? Sally Yates.
Yes, I think she's gonna wind up with a position somewhere in the Democratic administration, whether it's an assistant AG or, in fact, AG.
Okay.
I think she's got to be on everybody's short list.
Now, because we're feeling good, our progressives out here in Minnesota. In fact, a little piece of news that I was scamming the headlines this morning. It looks like, and my producer and engineer Brett might be able to chime in on this, that we are going to have roadside coronavirus testing in Minnesota soon.
Well, I haven't heard anything on that.
I just read a headline this morning in Minnesota. Anyway, so that's...
God, the traffic jams at the Wisconsin border are going to be something.
Boy, I'll tell you, now that we have... you can buy hard liquor and beer on Sundays. The traffic going over to Wisconsin on Sundays has decreased significantly. I've been known to make those runs over to Hudson, Wisconsin every now and then myself over the years. Let's do a little just progressive, positive fantasizing. So let's say Biden gets in. We've got Kamala as the VP. Who do you think could fill out the rest of the administration, Charlie Pierce?
Oh, this is almost like, whistling past the graveyard. You hate to do it. I think certainly, I don't want to strip the Senate. I don't want, Warren and Klobuchar and Cortez Masto and all these other people. I think they're probably, I'd sort of rather do types rather than actual people. Mm-hmm. I don't want the Treasury. I don't want him to do what Obama did with the economic team.
Right.
I don't want Geithner and Bob Rubin.
Right.
I want somebody from the Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party.
Right.
To run Treasury.
How about Robert Reich?
Maybe.
Okay.
Although it all depends. And this is the interesting question about the reconciliation in the Democratic Party. How far can the left of the party push him?
Right.
And I think, it takes, a hell of a lot of diplomatic skills, which the Sanders people have not exhibited.
Right.
In a great amount since they've been around. But I do think he's going to have to make some accommodation. He's not leading Bill Clinton's Democratic Party. He's not even leading Barack Obama's Democratic Party.
Right.
He's leading a Democratic Party with a very invigorated progressive wing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have to make some concessions to them, both in policy and in personnel.
Right.
And it'll be very interesting to see how far he goes with that.
You know what I really enjoyed? I caught the last part of his speech last night, and that
was the best I've ever seen him.
Gas free.
He was calm. He was presidential.
Yeah.
He was measured. Maybe it was the lack of an audience. Maybe because it was because there wasn't a crowd there. But he really sounded every note perfectly.
And how beautiful was it that you had a presidential hopeful taking a line of poetry and reciting it
from Seamus Haney?
Yes. Yeah. What was that
and being
line?
being able to recite it from memory.
What was that great line? What was that couplet?
It's the verse from the famous Seamus Haney poem about how history sometimes rhymes.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Just to, I mean, that's it. Put a little poetry back in politics. I'm for that all day long. Charlie Pierce, this has been such an incredible conversation. You, once again, like I said, you're my political morphine drip, and you keep me on this, not the straight and narrow, but you keep me in a good and happy place. We will be in touch with you.
We will see. We will do another checkpoint in April, I guess.
That sounds great, Charlie. Well, you have a great day. Enjoy the weather out there, man. And I'm going to dig up that Astro Weeks book.
Okay, yeah, do that because it's a really good book, and I want Ryan to sell more copies of it. So,
yeah, we certainly will. Well, thanks for your time, Charlie.
No problem, Paul. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We are celebrating our 6th anniversary this spring, and it's been a pleasure working with the fine folks at AM 950. This show is produced by Paul Metza and engineered by the great Brett Johnson. We recorded it in the basement of AM 950 Studios in Eden Prairie, which is neither Eden nor a prairie. We'd like to thank our guest, Charles Pierce, as well. Follow him on Twitter and Esquire.com. You can follow me at paulmetza.com. I've got my TV show called Wall of Power TV. If you have Comcast on Channel 6 at 8 and 11:30 on Saturday nights, or stream from mcn6.org. Come on, see me Thursday nights at Shaw's, 60th and University of Northeast Minneapolis, 5:30 to 7:30. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.